Around the world in 80 days? Wow, that sounds exciting, doesn't it? Can you imagine a modern remake set in the present day, could you? You'd sort of just dawdle slowly through customs and things, wouldn't you? Very, very slowly. Perhaps have a stop-off on the way 1, 2 or 17 times. You'd be disappointed, really, with not getting around the world in 80 hours. It would only be really exciting to do the world in 80 days if you ran, or if, I don't know, you rode a saddled giraffe or something. I'd love to make a giraffe gallop around Turkmenistan, wouldn't you? I mean, who wouldn't want that? Around the World in 80 Days was a 2004 adventure comedy made by Walden Media and released by Buena Vista. A few liberties were taken with the 1873 novel of the same name, with protagonist Phineas Fogg reimagined as an eccentric inventor, from his original characterisation being that of a chilled, elitist gambler. Admittedly, that is less of a liberty than to be a lion called Willie, just like the cartoon, as you know. If you're unaware of the original story, the movie, or the 80s cartoon featuring said lion, the story surrounds Phineas Fogg making a wager that he can circumnavigate the globe in 80 days during the decidedly travel-dicey times of the late 19th century. He takes with him his faithful French manservant, Passepartout. In the 2004 movie, Passepartout's role is heavily increased in importance, and he's then given his own side story. The reason for that is that Jackie Chan, the movie's most marketable star, plays Passepartout, who is in actuality Lao Jing, a Chinese guy who is intent on returning the stolen jade Buddha from the British Museum to his village temple, whilst being pursued by a ninja clan called the Black Scorpions, and tagging along with Phineas Fogg is the best way for him to return there. This enables Jackie Chan to kick people in the face during a Jules Verne adaptation of a fictional travelogue, so I'm all for it, because otherwise it'd just be a bit boring, wouldn't it? Imagine how much better some of those Jane Austen books would be if Mr. Darcy just roundhouse kicked someone in the face.
K.O.
However, I think I must be alone in this, as Chan and Steve Coogan's pan-continental exploits left critics and audiences cold, with Around the World in 80 Days just taking a $70 million return from its $110 million budget. Oh dear. It's a shame, as the film was Arnold Schwarzenegger's last role for a while, as he appeared in a cameo as a rather creepy dude with a very strange wig called Prince Happy. I mean, I would have gone to the cinema to watch that. I didn't, but I could have done if I could have been asked. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 32% approval rating based upon 128 reviews. A lot of issues with the movie were the amount of liberties taken by the script, as its resemblance to the Verne novel is at best described as passing. The video game came out on mobile phones and the Gameboy Advance in June 2004, courtesy of Hip Games. It was programmed by Sapphire, the development team that was behind the pretty good puzzle game E.T. Escape from Planet Earth, with a whole slew of other licensed games under their belt, from the likes of Zorro to Van Helsing to Xena Warrior Princess. Atweed, as I'll call it from now on because I'm lazy, puts you into the Chinese shoes of stunt lunatic Jackie Chan in a side-scrolling action-adventure. I presume you play as Passepartout because Jackie Chan is more compelling to play as than Steve Coogan, as from what I remember, Alan Partridge is not really known for his kung fu or leaping off of roofs. Passepartout is indeed an agile beggar, grabbing ledges, crawling under moving trains and leaping from wall to wall like a hyperactive moth in a room with loads of wall lights. He can also perform a variety of kicks and punches on his would-be assailants that range from aristocratic huntsman toffs in pith helmets to cowboys to the aforementioned Black Scorpion Ninja Clan. The gameplay essentially consists of moving across the screen from left to right, which is thematically fitting with the movie's plot, but it's also the most standard platform trope in existence, and I don't think they were thinking as deeply about this game as I am now. The game bars you from finishing the level unless you've found 4 Chinese symbols, which also increase Passepartout's life bar. I'll tell you what else would extend your life bar, Jackie. Not doing your own stunts. You're getting on a bit now, fella. There are gold coin collectibles also to be found across the short stages, and if 80 are collected, then Monsieur Passepartout can have an extra life, if he so wishes, which he evidently does. The game characters are rendered digitised sprites, which animate smoothly, but look really uggo and washed out and incongruous with the game world itself. I've never been a big fan of those pre-rendered digitised sprites. I always think they look really unattractive and unappealing. I know other people like them, but I wish they'd just return into the camera womb from which they were birthed screaming out of, and thankfully they're largely a thing of the past these days. The background locales, though, they're not much better really. They're of London, Paris, Turkey, India, China, San Francisco, the Wild West and New York, and they're competent enough, but they look pretty drab, and if I'm being perfectly honest, there's never a backdrop change which makes you go, oh, and there really should be in a game that's centred around travel, as this is. The game controls are flawed. Sometimes you just want Jackie to duck underneath the incoming bullet of an aggressor, and he will instead decide to just sort of palm himself off onto the platform underneath to have a look what's going on down there. This, I think, could have been rectified quite easily by utilising the unused L key as a specific ducking command. Leaping too can be a bit awkward, particularly onto smaller ledges, and the fighting for a man as fluid as Jackie Chan is best described as cumbersome. Around the World in 80 Days is a short experience, too hard in some places, too easy in others, but it's also not a terrible one. It's just not particularly thrilling. It's entirely meh. Much like a holiday to a coastal town in the UK, there's far better places to go, isn't there? I mean, have you ever really gone, oh, that's an amazing time I had at the beach? Anywho, IGN agree with me. The game scored a 3.5 with them, saying that the game only stays right enough because it's got so little going on with it to get wrong. It's a game that cuts so many corners. See, it's not just me. It's as boring as that couple you met on the Greek island, but unlike them, at least you can ping this cartridge into the sea. If you're going to make games like this, Phineas, maybe you should have just stuck to those snacks that you were trying to hawk us in the 1990s. Like, subscribe, and K, thanks, bye.
Pay attention, Phileas Fogg, authentic snacks made in Medemsey Road Concert.